Climate Change Act and how they're being implemented in the UK, which is through carbon budgets. The Low Carbon Transition Plan, which was our document that we published in July, which I've said many of you have seen, and then a little bit about the processes of how carbon budgets are actually going to be managed. And then, as I said, I'm afraid I have to leave after my slot, so I'm happy to take questions afterwards if I can't answer them myself. And I have to be honest here, I am not a waste expert. In all my time in DECC, the Commission and MAP, I really only worked on agriculture and food issues and fisheries and other things. So my waste knowledge is really from the last few weeks. But you in the audience today are the waste experts. So I'm going to dig into things like myself without your help. We can get very far. As I said, I would start by talking about the Climate Change Act, which came farming land and waste. It said that, as the slide earlier in Daniel said it contributes 4% of emissions savings for 2018 to 22. And we can do this by driving down emissions from these three sectors in the following ways. Firstly, encouraging voluntary action from English farmers to reduce their emissions, encouraging private funding for woodland creation, reducing waste and capturing more of the methane emissions from landfill, and supporting waste-to-energy technologies such as anaerobic digestion. And supporting all of this is work being undertaken to improve the way that emissions from these sectors are measured and verified. So, looking at the plan in more detail, what it actually said about waste. Some of this I'm sure people in the audience are aware of, but the decomposition of waste creates methane, which currently makes up approximately 4% of our total greenhouse gas emissions. Emissions are already down quite significantly from 1990, but we still do need to go further. I refer back to the charts we looked at previously. We are aiming to reduce the amount of waste produced and reduce the percent of landfill, capturing more of the methane from the existing landfill. The environment agencies are already looking into some of this work with government and providing support for anaerobic digestion, turning waste into methane. And putting all of these together, we hope that this will lead to a further 1 million tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalent savings per year by 2020. That's a little about the detail on waste, how we within government going to manage this system. One way that we could have done this was by saying, okay, DECC, you're responsible for climate change, you can be responsible for all the emissions. As you can understand, coming from DECC, we weren't too keen on that idea. We thought it would be better to create corporate activities on carbon reductions by creating departmental carbon budgets, so that each government department has not only an allocation which is relevant to their area of influence and their policy levers that they have on certain sectors, but also as public sector organisations, they have emissions too, which they need to control and to reduce. So these two allocations are put together to make a departmental carbon budget. And when you look at this for the departments as a whole, although they're glad not to get 100%, we have got over 50% of the budget. The other two big players are DEFRA and DECC, and then some of the smaller departments. The departments listed as others are departments that only have a share of operational carbon budgets. So these are the emissions from their buildings and from the transport associated with their work, which is already at the moment being looked at through sustainable operations in government and the state. So once you have your department, they have the departmental carbon budget, which, as I say, is a share of the UK total carbon budget. It's based on the relative influence they have on the different sectors. But no department could deliver savings on their own. DEFRA, for example, is the lead department for both agriculture and waste, but it's unable to deliver all the emission savings without help and support from other departments. And as I mentioned, there is also the public sector emissions, the own operations and the states. How will they deliver this? They will deliver this by producing and delivering a carbon reduction delivery plan, which is how they will deliver their budgets, which will include the indicators by which they will be measured over time so that we can see whether they will hit those carbon reduction budgets, emission reductions. And there are also linked to the plans that departments are being asked to produce for adaptation as well, and equally important part that we mentioned in this short introduction. So for waste, how we've divided up the budgets, as I say, is that DEFRA leads with a 70% share. BIS, which is Business, Innovation and Science, has 15%. DECC has 7, CLG 7 also, and DFT 1% of those shares. So what will departments be doing next? This is all very well and it all seems very navel-gazing, I'm sure, to you out there in the real world. How are we going to take things forward? Well, these sector working groups are being set up to manage these sectors, waste and agriculture being two of them. There's another one, transport and power. We're actually now going to sit down and work out how we're going to deliver UK carbon transition plan. So that's working up individual policy options, including liaising with stakeholders and delivery partners and others interested in the sector. Agreeing a set of indicators so that we can monitor and measure progress. The lead department in their report, their carbon reduction delivery plan, which will be published in the spring, will have an overview section of their sector. So DECC will have not only sections on the sectors that they deal with, but they will have an overall understanding of the waste and the agriculture sector. And then they'll be drafting these plans